Welcome to This Week in Racing, our weekly roundup of the top racing headlines that you don't want to miss. As always, I'm joined by Logan and Claudia, and we are going to cover so many amazing headlines. We've got Colton Herta's F1 gamble, Ollie Bearman's potential race ban. But first, we're going to start with the nightmare happening over at McLaren. As you both know, this last weekend's Grand Prix was a mess.
Papaya Rules.
Papaya Rules. I feel like there's always a mess at McLaren, I fear. It's not been a very good year for them, social image wise, of how they've dealt with in race situations.
Yeah, and in this case, Norris had the option to pit before Oscar. He passed it up. Oscar went in, very clean pit stop. Lando went in, the wheel gun jammed, or whatever the issue was. And Lando came out behind Oscar, and the team ordered him to switch and give back the position, which led to this sort of domino effect of depression from both of the guys, and then some of the teams jumping in on this, including Max and GP over the radio.
Yeah, it just felt a little bit ridiculous. I mean, even Oscar said it on his radio. He said something like, well, a wheel gun issue isn't really my problem. Like, it's not a racing incident, or said something along those lines, which is so fair. He should be treated like any other driver on the track. If he's ahead, he gets to stay ahead. They're not going to be like, hey, Max, like, come back here, come back. Lando had a bad stop. Like, it was ridiculous, I think.
Yeah, that was a pretty hard watch. And I feel like everybody except for the McLaren pit wall noticed that that was a really weird call to make. And I think they just further proving how having two number one drivers is potentially a really big mistake and like makes everybody confused. I think maybe they're trying to approach it with making both drivers feel, loved and wanted and taken care of, I guess, and they both have a really good shot at the championship, but I don't think it's doing any of them anything positive by like both thinking that they're number one and not being able to prioritize. Like not being able to prioritize is not a good thing.
Completely. And I'm pretty sure Oscar's race engineer said on his radio, like, this is similar to Hungary last year. Like, it just is a little bit ridiculous. You can't be like
Weird.
banking the favors and like pulling them out when they need to work in the other driver's favor. I don't know. It didn't seem like they were trying to make it fair, but it didn't even seem fair. And like you said, Claudia, two number one drivers, like that never works.
Yeah, I agree. I also don't think Oscar should have followed team orders. That's just my hot take.
Yeah.
It's just like, unfortunately, I think McLaren's built a reputation for themselves where like everybody's so nice and like we just take really good care of each other, but then like it doesn't allow any room for anybody to stand up for themselves. And it's kind of awful to watch. I was gonna say a bad word, but I'm not gonna say it. Uh, it's not a great watch to like see somebody not be able or not feel like they have the room to be like no. And maybe he should have. Like maybe that's just a young driver thing, but clearly like somebody like Max would have been like no, like sorry, thanks for
Yeah.
asking, but no.
Yeah. I feel like he felt like he had to pay his dues because they brought up the Hungary thing. And I feel like it might be a different story going forward because now they're even-ish. And maybe he'll feel like he has more grounds to stand on to say no to that sort of thing. But I agree. I feel like you look at the champions, you look at like Sebastian Vettel, always ignoring the team orders. Look where he is, 4-time world champ. Max Verstappen, he was a little bullish on the radio. He gets what he wants. So I feel like it'll be interesting to see who like actually steps it up to, stand on the top step at the end of the season. I feel like the other concern earlier in the season is always the Constructors' Championship as well, but they pretty much have that on lock, and hopefully, I'm not jinxing anything, but, like, statistically, they could win it in Baku from what I've seen, so they shouldn't be too worried about the drivers fighting anymore. I feel like that is much more of a valid concern early in the season, especially when it's, like, so much more even, but now it's kind of like, okay, the team is pretty much locked in, like, let the drivers do their thing and don't get in their way, like, this is a separate fight now.
Time will tell. Last time we asked a poll from David Land and Tony Donahue. They wanted to know whether Alex Palou would be able to score as many race wins next season in IndyCar. And so we had the answers to that from you. This time we want to know whether you think that Papaya Rules have gone too far. Is this how the team should be acting and this is business as usual and it's all good for them? Or does something need to change and change immediately? So let us know what you think in the poll and we'll see what happens next week.
Speaking of troubles in F1, McLaren's probably on the luckier side, as in both of their drivers are perpetually delivering and showing up and putting that car either on the top step or at least on a podium step, even on somewhat of a bad weekend, which I guess they would consider this last weekend because they didn't win after such a dominant season. There are some other drivers and teams that are not so lucky. Pierre Gasly is one of them, but he's re-signed until 2028, which is a big deal. I saw a meme over the weekend saying that he has like Stockholm syndrome and like is stuck hostage in
Blink twice if you're in trouble.
They're like, you want to be here, we promise. But it's great. I think it's great to see him continue to stay in the sport. Obviously, seats are hard to come by, and so I can't blame him. Like, if you've got a good seat going, even if it's not super competitive yet, like, makes sense to lock it down.
Pierre is signed, but we don't know who has the second Alpine seat.
Yeah.
So do you guys think Alpine is going to sign a rookie, or do you think they're going to sign one of the drivers who isn't locked in for next season? I mean, obviously we saw them sign Jack and then drop him mid-season and then bring in Franco, but neither of those drivers ever, like, they haven't put a single point on the board. Pierre's the only one scoring for Alpine. When you look at the constructors, it may as well say Pierre Gasly for Alpine. So who do you think is going to be in that second seat?
I think Franco also brings in a lot of sponsorship money and fans that buy merch and fans that buy tickets to F1. So I think performance aside, unfortunately, finances are a big part of what makes F1 possible and what helps people go racing. So even if he doesn't have a spectacular season, I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, speaking of other drivers who are vying for F1 seats, the big news coming out of the end of the IndyCar Championship this past week is actually that Colton Herta is on his way towards F1. He's not fully there. He's announced as Cadillac's test driver. And the speculation is that he's vying for an F2 team seat. Interesting to see this story finally playing out after all these years, but what do you guys think? Like, how long is he going to have to wait for a seat? And most importantly, is this a good thing for Colton?
I really cannot even picture him in F1. I mean, like you said, Greg, his name has been thrown around so often. His name was thrown around before McLaren announced Oscar Piastri. Like, that was the rumblings back then. So he's always been in the mix. He's just not even fallen short, but he wasn't eligible. That's all it really was.
I can imagine him in F1. I think it'd be really interesting to see him there. I can't necessarily imagine him in F2 with like all the other 22, like 21-year-old drivers that have just raced together growing up in the Formula Series during the last 5 years with this like really professional racing driver that's been doing this for a living with a salary, like with sponsors.
Yeah.
And not like having to pay for a seat necessarily for a really long time. Like, I think it's a really big jump from like, I guess, going from a job like back to college. Like, that's like a really weird change.
Well, we're talking about how Colton Herta is going to need to get his super license, but would you guys believe me if I told you that Max Verstappen is going to have to go and take an exam to get a separate permit so that he can race in an endurance racing league this weekend? So basically, Max.
If we say no, does it count?
Well, I'm just going to tell you anyways. Max Verstappen is going to go and race. He's received the contractual approval from Red Bull, with Helmut Marko basically saying, yes, like the car hasn't been great. It's been a tough season. Like, we'd love for Max to do this and like do his hobbies to keep his spirits uplifted, which is hilarious. But ultimately, to race in this series, he needs to get a separate permit. So on the Friday before the race weekend, he has to go and take a class and then take an exam. And when he passes that exam, like hopefully he does. If he doesn't, there's something wrong. But once he passes that exam, he gets his entry B level permit, which is literally like beginner. It's just so funny that a 4-time Formula One World Drivers Champion would have to go back and get a permit to do a 6-hour race, I believe. He does these all the time on iRacing on his simulators, and he races under the name Franz Hermann too. And I feel like there was always speculation if he were to do this in real life, if he would race under that alias. But because of this stupid permit, he has to give his actual name. So he can't even give the fans a Franz Hermann racing debut.
That would have been really funny if they let him do that.
One of the things that I saw as well is that Red Bull is paying for his seat, like paying for him to do this race.
Oh.
So for all of those kind of like extracurricular activities he likes to do, it kind of is more incentive to stay with Red Bull. And obviously there's way more that goes into that decision, whether he wants to stay with Red Bull or go to a different F1 team. But like Red Bull has so many partnerships with other series and sponsors and that sort of thing. So like they basically will just comp whatever other thing he wants to do.
Yeah.
So that's a plus.
I think if anything, it's a sign that maybe they're scared to lose him because I don't really think that in, 2022 they would have been like, yeah, our Max Verstappen can just take the weekend
Yeah.
off and go do another race. But maybe like the times are dire and I think they're just willing to do whatever it takes to keep him happy.
Before we get to our final story, let's run through a couple headlines in case you missed them. Number 1, Porsche Penske won the Lone Star Le Mans this past weekend from Austin, Texas. Number 2, Gunther Steiner is back. This time, though, he's in MotoGP, taking over a role of CEO for the Red Bull KTM Tech 3 MotoGP team. And finally, the big Michael Jordan lawsuit continues. A judge overruled an injunction that the teams 2311 and Front Row Motorsports were looking for, which will continue to drag out this lawsuit for the sport. It will continue to be a thorn in everyone's side with the trial picking up in December. So stay tuned and we'll fill you in on that when more comes out. And now let's talk about the big finale, the Ollie Bearman story.
Oh my gosh. Ollie Bearman, guys, 2 penalty points away from a race ban. I feel like Haas has something in their DNA about being menaces. Like they're causing some chaos on track. Like, Kevin Magnussen, is that you? I'm really surprised about this headline because I feel like when you hear about the rookie drivers causing a little tussle on the track, it's never, maybe it's just me, but it's never been Ollie Bearman that's like top on the list of like
Yeah.
somebody that's causing chaos. Like, I think if anything, Liam Lawson's gotten a lot of shade and into some arguments with other
Yeah.
drivers for his track behavior and driving style. And Ollie's just like not the one that comes to mind. And he's like never had a lot of beef with other drivers. That's been very obvious. Like, it's just a huge surprise to me that this has been basically accumulating over half of this first season in F1. And we are so close to a race ban. Like, what is going on? Did anybody notice this happening?
No, like I'm so embarrassed to say I feel the exact same, Claudia. You sent that to me and I was like, are you sure you're not talking about like honestly Kimmy even? Like I feel like I've heard his name in the news a little bit more for a couple tussles. Like you said, Liam Lawson. Isaac, I think, was getting into trouble with like Carlos at one point, but I feel like Ollie, I just never heard. I never heard his name. Maybe they just never show it on the broadcast. Maybe he's paying F1 TV to be like, don't show my crashes, like don't show my issues. But I don't know. It felt like a surprise to me too. I feel like it's just been so subtle that I haven't even noticed that he's literally, like you said, K-Mag reincarnated.
If you said it was like $2 million away from the cost cap from all the crashes that had happened, then that I would have believed. But yeah, him getting penalty points to put him at a race ban, like an experienced guy like Kevin Magnussen was, is crazy.
Crazy. Do you think this takes him out of the running for Rookie of the Year?
Probably, yes.
I would have to say that Isaac's already got that on lock,
I know.
regardless of that.
It sucks though, because I feel like Ollie, for somebody in a Haas, let's
Yeah.
make that really clear, has been having a great year. Like, really could have been worse. He's had some really great moments. He's been in the points, like he qualifies decently well. Like, yeah, there's some bad weekends and obviously a lot of these penalty points, but I wouldn't have said that he's had a bad season. So I'm
Yeah.
pretty astonished. I wonder if they're gonna be extra careful with him, like on the radio with reminders or whatever, because a race ban is a pretty bad thing to have in your first year in F1.
It's a
Maybe
pretty
it's better just to get it over with. Like rip the Band-Aid off and just have him take the next 2 points and just call it a day.
maybe we haven't heard about it because Steiner's not there swearing every time it happens. And it doesn't cut to him,
I know, bring that back. That would have been really entertaining this season, I think.
right? Yeah, we probably would have realized that that was going on if we were getting cut to Steiner, always calling Jean. Okay, that was a terrible accent.
Do it one more time. Do it one more time.
Like, I can't. I can't. Jean. All right, cut the cameras. That's our cue. That's our cue.
All right. And with that, let us know if there's any headlines that you think we missed. And if you're inclined, join, become a member. You'll get early access to videos like this and many others. Thank you as always, and we'll see you next week.